NBC40 News starts now.
You know what I'm thinking about? Why? What was going through that lady's mind to put herself and her child in danger like that?
Good Sunday evening, everyone. I'm Jeff Whitaker. Thanks for staying up with us. We begin this evening with a developing story out of Atlantic City. That's where a woman is charged with assaulting an infant after police say she threw her baby into the ocean and then she jumped in herself. People nearby were able to save the baby and the mother, but it's still not clear why this all happened. Jim Murdoch was on the scene and he spoke with several of the heroes who risked their own lives to save the woman and her baby.
Crazy, really don't expect something like that to be happening when you're just down at the beach having a time with family.
Seth Perkins wanted to spend a relaxing autumn day at the beach with his family, but just after 5 Sunday evening, he and several fishermen turned into heroes. Police say this woman, 24-year-old Patricia Schurig of Atlantic City, threw an infant girl less than 2 months old off the rocks here at Pacific Beach and then jumped into the ocean. Perkins helped bring Schurig to shore.
She was a limp noodle, unresponsive. I guess she was breathing, but just looked completely lifeless, and she was just completely limp.
Never look at those rocks again the same.
Louis Ortiz also jumped into the inlet.
I'm going to go in for you, but you can't panic and don't try to grab me. That's it. And I went in after.
A retired Atlantic City firefighter helped rescue the baby girl.
The lady handed me the baby. I did 2 mouth breathes and turned her over, patted her on the back. She spit up a lot of water. And I just ran down the jetty and gave it to the EMS people that were there.
You know what I'm thinking about? Why? What was going through that lady's mind to put herself and her child in danger like that?
Witnesses say this section of shoreline presented a number of challenges for them once they jumped into the water. Number 1, the woman and the baby were separated by about 50 yards offshore. Number 2, the rocks are extremely dangerous. And number 3, this section of inlet has constantly changing currents. Despite all the hazards, witnesses say no one appeared to be seriously injured. A relief for all those who suddenly became heroes during a simple day at the beach.
I was just hoping that he would help save the person that was in the water, and I was just hoping that they would live.
Proud of your dad?
Yeah, very.
In Atlantic City, I'm Jim Murdoch, NBC 40 News.
Police say Patricia Schurig and the baby girl were taken to Atlanticare Regional Medical Center's City Division for treatment. Additional charges against Schurig are expected. Bail has been set at $100,000. A young Pleasantville man and woman are recovering from critical injuries from a shooting that occurred early Saturday. According to Pleasantville police, officials responded to the intersection of Pleasant Avenue and Main Street for a shots fired call just after midnight Saturday morning. When police arrived at the scene, they found a 21-year-old woman suffering 1 gunshot wound to the back and a 25-year-old man suffering 4 gunshot wounds to the arm and torso. Police on the scene discovered the suspect, a 25-year-old Pleasantville man, ambushed the victims as they walked by a beauty supply store. He then charged the victims, firing about 6 times. Pleasantville detectives have made an arrest and charged the shooter with aggravated assault and weapons offenses. His name has not yet been released. He is currently lodged in the Atlantic County Jail on $150,000 bail. The investigation is ongoing. Anyone with information regarding the attack is urged to call Crime Stoppers at 609-652-1234. A 63-year-old man is currently recovering from a close call when a fire broke out in his home. Just after 10 Saturday morning, Wildwood Crest police received numerous calls about smoke coming out of a residence on Astor Road. Officials arrived on the scene and found heavy smoke coming from inside the residence. Once inside, a police sergeant found the owner, 63-year-old Charles Myers, unconscious and not moving. The fire was located in the home's living room and was extinguished shortly after that. Myers was then transported to Cape Regional Medical Center. Wildwood Crest, the man is expected to make a full recovery. Earlier today, community leaders and several dozen residents in an Atlantic City neighborhood held a rally. It's all in the wake of a shooting death of Sean Brown. According to police, back in September, Brown was armed with a handgun. He got into an altercation with police before an officer shot and killed him. Several of Brown's family members read from statements. Members of the National Action Network called for an end to violence in the area.
Prevent it, change the policy, get involved with policy as young people, register to vote, change it. A lot of people died for that right. A lot of people bled for that right. Use that right. And you don't have to use a bullet to do that.
A spokesman from the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office says this investigation into Brown's death is ongoing. The annual Walk to End Alzheimer's returned to Atlantic City today. Teams and individual participants walked along the boardwalk to raise money for Alzheimer's support, care, and research. Here's Charlisa Gordon with more.
Every 67 seconds, someone in the United States develops Alzheimer's.
We know what a terrible disease it is.
Over 2,000 participants took the 2-mile walk up and down the Atlantic City Boardwalk to raise money and awareness to end Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's, a degenerative brain disease that affects more than 5 million people across the country and nearly 300,000 individuals and families in the Delaware Valley area alone. And as many as 85,000 live in South Jersey.
Atlantic City is one of our 6 walks. All told, we are hoping to raise over $2 million with all of our walks.
I'm glad to see the amount of people that have showed up. It really shows the concern and care and love for those that are suffering from the disease.
Alzheimer's is an incurable and untreatable degenerative brain disease that is also the 6th leading cause of death in the country.
The only one in the top 10 that is growing.
People don't really understand the disease until it hits your family.
It is a disease that isn't just hard on those who have it, but also the families and caregivers.
It needs to have more awareness, and more money that is created will help people to maybe find more medicine to help the disease, more people to understand the seriousness of it, and have patience and understanding with those that do have the disease.
In Atlantic City, Charlisa Gordon, NBC40 News.
An Ebola survivor is helping in the fight to save Dr. Craig Spencer, the latest American battling the deadly virus in New York. There remain ongoing questions, though, about how others returning from West Africa should be monitored when they come back to the States. Jay Gray has more tonight from New York.
According to the medical team at Bellevue Hospital, Dr. Craig Spencer's symptoms have intensified.
People tend to get worse before they get better with this disease. So he remains in stable condition, but we are aware that this is the natural course of this disease.
As part of his ongoing treatment, we now know Dr. Spencer has received plasma from Ebola survivor Nancy Wrightball. Overnight, Spencer's fiancée, Morgan Dixon, was released from the hospital. Still, she'll be monitored daily and must remain quarantined inside the couple's Harlem apartment.
We'll be making sure, in collaboration with many different agencies around the city, that this person's needs are taken care of.
Nurse Casey Hickox tested negative for Ebola after returning from Sierra Leone Friday. Still, she remains in isolation at a Newark hospital tonight because of a mandatory quarantine order now in effect in New Jersey. The same measure is also in place in New York and Illinois right now. Humanitarian groups say the quarantine is unnecessary, and in an open letter to the Dallas Morning News, Hickox said, "This is not a situation I would wish upon anyone," and that she was scared and made to feel like a criminal.
I understand Ms. Hickox is uncomfortable, and I understand that she doesn't want to be quarantined. But my responsibility, my greater responsibility, is the 8.9 million people of the state of New Jersey.
Federal, state, and hospital teams all continue to evaluate Hickox's condition tonight.
There is also now a new order in place in Florida. It does not mandate a quarantine, but does require anyone returning from West Africa to be monitored for 21 days. Jay Gray, NBC News, New York.
Still to come tonight on NBC40 News, Old Glory receives a proper retirement in a Delhaven ceremony this Sunday. And
I'm Stacey Johnson here at the New York Stock Exchange to ask you a simple question. Are you confused about how to invest your retirement savings? Let's see if we can clear that up just ahead on Money Talks News.